Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Plymouth Science Park's webinar for Meet the Neighbour, a really exciting initiative that's allowing, especially in this sort of pandemic world, allowing us to meet neighbours. Today we've got 3 speakers lined up from 3 extremely different organisations, which kind of reflects the community we enjoy here at the park. So we've got Vicky from Recognition, then we'll have Ian from XFAB, and then Dave presenting to us from Vertical Plus. Vertical Plus were a tenant here 21 years ago when I was a tenant with my first business on the park. So it's great to see such longevity here. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce Vicky. Now, Vicky Eyre, who is the Director of Clinical Operations at Recognition, a really important organisation in clinical trials, especially around, and I'll probably be corrected by Vicky here, around sort of neurodegeneration, in particular memory loss, which is why I'm looking at my notes, because I'm probably going to be a participant fairly soon. So Vicky, over to you. Welcome.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen.
And as you're doing that, I'll just need to sort of suggest, save questions until the end of the presentation, folks. But as it's Meet the Neighbour, I'd rather we used, a hand up and your video to ask a question rather than hide behind the chat function. It's the whole part of this is to get to meet each other. If you don't want to do that and you want to anonymise it, if it's a really awkward question, feed it through the chat function and I'll ask it on your behalf. I won't grass you up, honest.
Right, okay, I'm just going to move this over a little bit. Here we go. I'm just going to bring my slides over so I'm actually looking rather than away. Tell you what. Okay, so Recognition Health. So we are a UK, we were a startup in the UK, and we've expanded considerably over the last 9 years. We consider ourselves the brain and mind expert. So as Ian outlined, we focus on clinical trials, commercial clinical trials, primarily for neurological therapeutic areas such as Alzheimer's, cognitive impairment, MS, and a bit of Parkinson's, autism, ADHD, and migraine. So I'm just going to talk you through our what we're about, and we've got our Plymouth clinic based at Unit 5 in the Plymouth Science Park, down at the bottom of the hill near Sentinel Health. So we provide patients with access to our expert teams for the diagnosis, investigation, and treatment of conditions affecting the brain and mind. I gave a few examples at the start. Alzheimer's is our kind of bread and butter in terms of the research. That's what we started with, and that's where our expertise is developed from. We also cover other disease areas which have kind of been included in the last couple of years, including autism, ADHD, and Parkinson's and MS, working in collaboration with other experts in those therapeutic areas. We've also got experts with traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress disorder as well. We started with one London clinic and have expanded from there. So we've currently got 5 UK clinics in London, Plymouth, Guildford, Winchester, Birmingham, and we are opening our 6th clinic in Bristol in May 2022. We screened our first patient into a commercial clinical trial in October 2013, and by early 2014 we'd already begun enrolling patients into 2 large AD trials. From there we've just expanded and increased our patient volume considerably. Even during the pandemic, we were really happy actually to be able to continue to offer patients that really essential kind of clinic contact with our medics and our psychologists. And our patients, despite the adversity and the kind of the fear, I guess, of leaving home during that time, the risk of the development of their Alzheimer's or their cognitive impairment was kind of considered higher than the risk of catching COVID from attendance. It was more important to them to continue that clinical access. So we have had great success in the UK, and we continue to learn, we continue to grow and build our network of collaborators. And we've been able to actually open our first US centre as well as a result of the relationships we've made. So we have a centre near Washington, DC, and we're aiming to open a few more in the next couple of years as well. Our patients database, we have a patient database of over 40,000 people across the UK, and they cover the various locations that we sit within. This map's slightly out of date. You can see 5 centres on there. We'll be adding the 6th very soon. And we have a central patient recruitment team who take in all the referrals from patients who have heard about us from the website, from social media, from radio and print campaigns too. And those central recruitment staff are so experienced in the trials that we have running, they're able to really kind of identify the most suitable opportunity for each patient who gets in touch with us. These are just some of the sponsors that we work with. So these are pharmaceutical companies who own or are managing the compounds that we're trialling. So big ones that you might recognise are Eastside, Novartis, obviously with the recent COVID vaccination, Biogen, Roche, but we work with an awful lot of sponsors, and yeah, feel very honoured to do so actually. We also work with CROs, so these are clinical research organisations. So these companies manage the clinical trials on behalf of the big sponsor companies. So again, big names such as Worldwide Clinical Trials, Parexel, Syneos Health, and we're actually on a number of kind of preferred networks with these CROs as well. So this is our Plymouth Centre right down at the bottom of the hill, Unit 5. Dr. Steve Pearson, pictured here, is our lead investigator at the site. You might see him walking around the science park trying to catch some fresh air between seeing patients. He's very friendly, so if you ever see him, do say hello. So our team in Plymouth, we've got Dr. Stephen Pearson, and we're also working with Dr. Brendan McLean, who's based in Cornwall, for MS research. Our sub-investigator who works day to day with our patients is Dr. Victoria Evans. Hannah Palmer leads on the site management, and then we've got 2 assistant psychologists, our wonderful administrator Laura, and we've got a pharmacy team as well who support the efforts with the patient dosing. Now, we already have a number of existing collaborators. These are both on the Plymouth Science Park, but also very close to. So we work with the University of Plymouth with some research kind of delivery and advice. There's a grant that we're working with them on at the moment. We work with the Devon Hospital Pathology Lab when we need any local sample analysis for our trials. We've done a bit of work previously with ultracardiac, with one of the studies we had running. We're currently working with Transform MSCIC, who are based at the top of the Science Park, with regards to MS research. Alliance Medical are another collaborator of ours, so we need a lot of imaging for our research, MRI and PET imaging, and we tend to work with Alliance Medical or Nuffield Health for that. And then we also work with Noakes and Hadmel opticians who are based locally. We are always looking for other collaboration opportunities. These trials are only getting more complex in terms of the assessments and tests needed. So if anyone wanted to kind of discuss what opportunities there might be for us to work with you, we'd be really open to having conversations and coming to meet you and talking about what might be possible. For us, the main thing at the minute is to try and get patients and volunteers the opportunity and access to the research that we're delivering in our clinics. And obviously with the lockdown and the impact of that, the access to GP and secondary care is somewhat limited or a bit challenging at the moment. We know the Plymouth Memory Service is really struggling, and I think has stopped taking patients at the moment. So if you're concerned about a loved one or your own memory, please get in contact. We have lots of research opportunities which can get you access free of charge to assessment by our specialists, the imaging, the testing, and really kind of find out what's going on, and we can support you through anything that's needed and hopefully get you onto a research study. We've also got the opportunities for MS patients too. So yeah, so we're here to help anyone. We're here for access. We're here to get that medical support and insight into anything that's happening. And I can be contacted, or if you look at the website www.thebrainandmindexperts.com, you can find everything you need about us there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Vicky. Fantastic to see the collaboration going on, with tenant companies, the hospital, the university. The Transform MS community interest company, I know, has Jeremy Hobart, who's a university lecturer and an expert in MS, and they're housed here. And I know we've been trying to, pre-COVID, trying to co-locate you guys and gals so you can work together in a physical space. So it's great to see that survived. Just before we launched this, we were chatting on the side about how the pandemic actually has raised awareness for the need for clinical trials, but how can we as a community help you recruit more participants? And you're suggesting maybe more family get-togethers over Easter.
Yeah.
If we witness somebody we may not have seen physically for quite a while, with behavioural changes that concern us, can we feed that into you to
Absolutely. So, I mean, we've all been through a really challenging 18 months to 2 years time, 2 years. And there's, situations where a lot of us have been stuck at home for a long amount of time. We haven't been involved in the day-to-day activities or clubs or, human contacts that you would have had normally. And as everything opens up, and obviously Christmas 2021 was the first time really that people were getting together in a family situation or group setting. And we're just about to go into the Easter bank holiday as well. And there will be people who notice considerable change or light touch changes with members of their family, or perhaps themselves if they're being challenged with names or date recall. And I think it's really important to recognize those changes and act on them as quickly as possible. We are here to support assessment. Our experts want to see those people who are concerned about their memory, or perhaps in the last 18 months they've had a formal diagnosis too. But also we can help advise if people are concerned about their loved one and just want to talk about that and understand what might be going on. So we've got a big campaign running this weekend, and we've got our information as well for contact on fuel pumps, and people are spending maybe a bit less time at fuel pumps at the minute, but needless to say, our information is there. So the website's accessible, or you can actually also text memory to 88440, and that will get you a call back from a member of our team as well.
Not wishing to hog all the questions, but here's a personal one now. So back in late summer, I got Delta variant of COVID. My short-term memory was shot to pieces with that.
Yeah.
How do you differentiate what is a viral attack from degenerative disease? How do we encourage people to get the right kind of primary note?
Yeah, of course. So we've got our fantastic team of doctors and assistant psychologists who are trained and experienced to really help distinguish between a potential Alzheimer processes versus anything else. So people who are very stressed are experience memory loss, which wouldn't be an AD process. And as you recognise, having COVID, long COVID symptoms are considerable. And so it's really important, it's kind of trusting the experts to be able to distinguish between what's a potential Alzheimer process and what's not. We're also setting up a long COVID clinic. So there's lots going on with long COVID too, since you mentioned it, Ian.
No, I ask it because, I think it's of concern to a lot of people. And could this be a trigger for acquisition of another disorder? I don't know.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of research going on at the minute into the impacts of long COVID.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Now, don't disappear, because
I won't. Yeah.
Our polite audience may well come up with some sort of questions for later. So can, just on behalf of everybody listening and future audiences online at YouTube, thank you very much for that. Really informative. And we'll segue into Ian now. Another Ian Muck, actually.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. So now over to Ian McPherson, who is Principal Engineer with X-FAB. So we're going from a company who's been with us for 6 years to one who's been with us for less than 12 months, arriving probably July last year. We were hoping to land you sooner, but that pandemic managed to rear its ugly head and stop us. So over to you, Ian. Now looking forward to learning all about semiconductors and why it's chips with everything.
Okay, so just bear with me a moment. I will start the presentation. Okay, so short introduction to XFAB then. As Ian said, we've only been on the park for a few months. But what do we do? Well, XFAB are a semiconductor manufacturer. In other terms, we make silicon chips. We're actually referred to as a foundry. What that means is that our customers design the chips and we actually make them. So there are companies that do integrated design and manufacture, so companies like Intel or Samsung. But our customers are actually companies that design silicon chips. Specifically what we do at XFAB then, we develop the actual manufacturing processes for what's called wafer fabrication. So the picture on the left there is a silicon wafer, and I guess each of the little squares would represent one silicon chip. So when they've been made, they get sawn into the individual chips. We develop what I've referred to as the building blocks required for silicon chip design. So things like transistors, resistors, capacitors, etc. Although we don't design the chips ourselves, we do support our customers with the design process. So we have lots of software and associated documentation and so forth, and that helps our customers to try to get their designs to work right first time. And then, of course, what we actually do is we fabricate the wafers for our customers, but we don't do this in Plymouth. We only have an office here at the Science Park. So I'll explain a bit more about the company in a moment. We also don't make the raw silicon wafer start material. So we start with one of these wafers, but it would have nothing on it. So it would just look like a blank piece of round silicon. And because we're a foundry, we normally sell wafers. It's actually the customers who dice the wafers into the individual chips and then package them into the sort of plastic package with the legs on, I guess, that maybe people would think or recognize more as a silicon chip. So in terms of the company itself, on the world map here, you can see that we're marked by the big orange arrow and the blue dot by it. So we have an R&D office in Plymouth, but the history of the company really is that it's based in Germany, specifically, I guess, in East Germany. So its headquarters was in a city called Erfurt, which is right in the middle of Germany now, but was in the former East Germany. We also have manufacturing facilities at 2 other locations in Germany. There's one in France, then one in Malaysia, and one in the USA. And in terms of the company size, we have around about 4,000 employees in total. And our revenue last year was just above the $500 million mark. So that's the kind of size company that we are. In terms of what we make, I guess some of these terms are maybe a little bit more technical, but you may have heard some of them before, particularly perhaps CMOS. So this is perhaps the most traditional and well-known technology for silicon chips. So that stands for complementary metal oxide semiconductor. We're also active in an area called MEMS, which is microelectrical mechanical systems. So this is where it's not just relying on necessarily an electrical performance, but also something physical is happening as well. So this is used for things like tire pressure sensors in cars, for example. Slightly newer materials, we have silicon carbide and gallium nitride, which are now really starting to be used, and I think are particularly important for electric cars. And then finally, something called heterogeneous integration, which is where we try to make components on separate wafers and then somehow put them together after they've been manufactured by an additional process. In terms of the dimensions, I guess features on silicon chips are extremely small. So our smallest geometry process that we have in production is in what's called the 0.13 micron technology node. And just to give an indication in terms of the sizes then, so a human hair is in the range of 10 to 200 microns wide, so it's much smaller than a human hair, and 1 micron represents 1,000th of a millimeter. So as you can imagine, the processes for making these are extremely advanced and complex. In terms of the areas where XFAB operates, I think predominantly we would consider ourselves as an automotive company. So a lot of our customers are supplying to the car manufacturers. And I guess for those of you who have a sort of fairly modern car, you will notice the number of electronic features and therefore the number of silicon chips that they have in them is ever increasing now. So I think I have heard instances of some brand new cars being made which have over 100 of our chips inside of them for various different applications. We also work in other markets though. So industrial, medical is very much a growing market for the semiconductor industry, and also communication. To give an idea, as I said, we're predominantly an automotive company. So about 50% of our revenue is automotive, and industrial and communications and consumer are around 20% each. But medical, as I said, is very much a growing market for us. Okay, so precisely what do we do in Plymouth and what are we doing at the Science Park? Well, the history is that XFAB used to own a factory, or fab is what they're called, and that's where the name XFAB comes from. So they owned a factory in Plymouth between 2002 and 2010, but then it was sold back to a company called Plessey. So they're based up at Roborough. But after the sale, XFAB decided to retain a research and development team in Plymouth. We did actually stay on site at Plessey for several years, but finally made it to the Science Park in July last year. So we're located upstairs in phase 2. And there are 7 of us working there, all experienced engineers at the office. And we work for a part of the company which is called XFAB Global Services. So that means that we support all of the manufacturing sites, and sometimes, although not so much recently, do get the opportunity to visit them. What we actually do in Plymouth, because of course we don't have any manufacturing here, so we're all involved in research and development, I guess primarily actually in process development. So we work in project management for our development projects, and that sometimes means that we're managers of process development teams. In other cases, we're just members of those teams. We also provide from this site customers with technical support and technical documentation. We work with computer-aided design of a lot of electrical test structures. So this is what we call layout, and then do a lot of statistical data analysis from measurements which are performed on our wafers at the various manufacturing sites. So if you'd like to find out more about XFAB in terms of its employer branding, we have this so-called X-Fabulous campaign where you can find out on either our website or social media channels a lot more about the company and some of the people who work for the company. And then finally, we also have some videos available. I think they're available on YouTube, but they're also available on our website, where you can see a little bit more about the applications where some of our chips might end up. Okay, so I hope that serves as a helpful introduction for you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ian. It's great to see survivability in Plymouth, having sold the site, that the expertise also sits here. So your core of 9 experienced engineers, it's great that you're retained in Plymouth and we haven't lost that talent pool. How do you recruit into that expertise? Do we have the young bloods coming through behind you?
I think that has been a little bit of an issue for us. It's more difficult, I think, on the one hand, to attract people to work at a site where there isn't all of the other elements, if you like. I think also from the company perspective, whilst they see a lot of value in maintaining the experience that they have, it can be more difficult to justify, I think, sometimes trying to bring people into Plymouth compared to bringing them to the other sites. But on the other hand, I think the way that things have worked in the last couple of years, I think it's well recognised that where you're based isn't necessarily the most important thing, and it's where the expertise is. And I suppose the employee perhaps has a lot more preference in where they're based now. So I think if we have people with the right experience who want to join us, then of course Plymouth is still a very attractive proposition for XFAB to keep sort of maintaining it and perhaps also growing the team as well.
Yeah, we've seen over the pandemic, we recruited more people outside of Plymouth than we ever expected, because they were relocating here for the work-life balance.
Yeah,
you know, access to beaches, access to the moor, and that was folks of the full age range. The youngsters who want to get out surfing, and the oldies like me who want to go for a pint at the country pub. So, you know, we have got the right balance down here. So thanks very much, Ian.
Okay,
I've not noticed anything coming into the chat, but that might come in later. So thank you ever so much. And I'll hand now over to probably one of our longest lived tenants, not you personally, Dave, but the business, Vertical Plus, I believe probably, I'm guessing, been here since 2001, something like at least 20 years.
Yeah, 2001. Yeah, maybe 2001. I can't remember now. It's been that long.
Yeah. So nobody wants to listen to me anymore. Over to you, Dave. Tell us all about Vertical Plus.
Yeah. Hi, Ben. Again, how you doing? Is this the third presentation this month that you've had to sit and watch me, or is it? Or maybe the last couple of months. But yeah, it's probably a mismatch. But I won't keep you too long. It just literally is meet the neighbours, isn't it? So, you know, just thought we'd let you know that I'm Vertical Plus. I have a short presentation which I'll kind of whip through just so you know who we are. So I'll just put that on now, showing my age now about presenting. Where's present again? Oh God, share screen. There we go. Okay, can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Great stuff. So I'm sort of starting, it's a bit at the end, but it's a little bit like what we are is that we're an e-commerce company. We operate from the middle floor of the Science Park down at the big office down the end. We moved into the Science Park in 2001, 2000, as you said. We've used the Science Park kind of growth model and grown from me in my office by myself to me and someone else to then we peaked at about 32 employees, and we had the big office opposite reception there on the left. We kind of hit lockdown, all the employees went home, and we struggled to get them back again. I think the reason being is that actually at home they work quite efficiently. They manage to do all their meetings. They avoid the Forder Valley sort of business thing going on. So it's all kind of yeah, it's interesting days. But in the meantime, the business has grown from strength to strength. You know, being our location there at the Science Park, it's all been sort of pretty good for us where we are. As an e-commerce company, we sit on the side of things where things are really complicated. So, you know, we kind of do the stuff in e-commerce that you think, oh, how could I do that? So we don't sit in the market of what you might say easy to put together, Shopify, WooCommerce kind of style stuff. We tend to work with more complex operations like personalized gift packages, larger inventories, complex delivery mechanisms. things like cut to size. So whenever you see anything sort of whizzy online, when you go to buy something and you think, oh, I like the way that worked, you know, I want to buy a mug and then put my own logo on it and then move some things around and then order a different kind of size and then get a price. That's the kind of area that we kind of sit in. Our turnover, you know, our retail turnover is around 24 million a year. We're not in the billions like our friend there at X-FAB, but, you know, we're kind of, you know, 24 million. At the moment, we've got 25 members of staff. You'll see many of them wandering around, although less infrequently. Most of the time in the office, we've got between 1 and 5 people in the office at the moment. And in terms of like, why do I want to pick you, or why do you want to use you? If you know anybody who wants e-commerce, that's a good start. If you know anybody who can't get what they need from Shopify and WooCommerce and the standard online platform, some sort of bespoke development, that's good. The other side of what we do is that we do what you might want to call pay per performance. So we only really get paid from the turnover of our clients rather than from sort of work that we do for them. So when a project's really good and involves a big sort of startup capital, you know, if you go into the web these days and you want something really complicated, you'll be looking at 50, 60, 70,000 pounds for a very complex e-commerce website. We'll tend to charge that very lowly and then get our money back over a longer period of time. So we kind of like to say, in some ways, we're an investor in terms of what, you know, new e-commerce propositions and businesses, especially those that want a true partner, that want a good development team, some marketing professionals, SEO experts, graphic designers. We try and have a wide range of stuff in terms of what you need to launch and do something. So we're always on the lookout for good entrepreneurs, people that have got a good vision, maybe a good idea for the web. We can then talk to them about putting together a sort of package that where they don't have to have large startup costs. We invest a little bit in their growth from start to end, so on and so forth. So that's me, that's the business. I've kind of gone off presentation almost entirely, but it's I thought you'd probably be more interested in just the quick thing rather than go through the whole lot. Ben's already seen it 3 times, so you don't need to see it again, do you, Ben?
I think it's a great model. I really do, because, you know, why buy in expertise and have to have 100% of their time when you can buy elements of a whole series of experts who've been there and done it? I think it's a super model. I really like it, and it stood the test of time. You know, 20 years still going.
We've had to change it, because if you went back 5 years, you didn't have so many build your own kind of style websites like you had Shopify and WooCommerce. Most people these days build their own website, and that technology's moved on tremendously. 5 years ago, we were picking up people that wanted a website from, you know, a normal website. These days now, we sit on that deluxe, bespoke style of, you know, end of things, and especially those that are entrepreneurs looking for exceptional business growth. You know, it's easy, you can put together a website with 20 products and you know, they'll sell what they'll sell, and it's very hard to grow from being a very small business. If you've got big dreams, you know, if you think, oh, I want to make $1 million, then we're the sort of partner for you. Many of our partners, they turn over in excess of 100 to 200,000 a month in terms of revenue. So we kind of run with those because they're the ones that are always looking for growth. So
there's a quick question come in from the chat. Do you want me to ask it, or do you want to ask it yourself? Go on.
Yeah, I can do. Can you see me or hear me?
Yes, this is Robert from Gathering Momentum, who's already done one of these.
Hi, David. Yeah, I did one last week, actually. Yeah. Right. Let me bring you down here. So I'm kind of looking at you. There you go. Yeah, Dev, I'm just interested how your charging model evolved. Just because we're not in the same space, but similar. We're in a CRM consultancy, and I imagine have a similar kind of the way we work with our clients tends to grow and evolve, but it's difficult to pin down a charging model, which I see which you've said you do as a kind of percentage of turnover. I'd be interested just in your journey to kind of how you got there.
Yeah, the pricing, it comes along the basis of the fact that we obviously need to make sure that the client's committed, because, you know, it is like investing in a business, you know, to a large extent. So we then have a deposit, you would say, to make sure that they're committed, because when we first started doing it, we didn't have a deposit. And then our first 2 clients dropped out once we'd done 3 weeks worth of work. So we needed to have some kind of deposit against, because we were always fully committed. So a deposit's really important. And then it's then having really good data, especially timesheet data, about the activities that staff are undertaking, so that you can then monitor their costs. Because otherwise, the clients, our staff might spend days and days and days on a client, and that is to us a cost of running the partnership, we call it. So then that cost has to be adjusted against the actual revenue. So we have quite a large and complex program, which works out the amount of revenue a client's bringing in, the amount of costs that they're taking, as well as, obviously a lot of it's about potential. It's like, where can the client be in 12 months time, rather than where are they now? And so it is a bit like an investment. What businesses currently do we want to invest in? At the moment, like, for example, we're going through and identify, we want 6 really good, we only need a small number of very good growth projects to make really good revenue. So we're looking now to see what are our next 6 growth projects amongst our existing clients. And then I think our target this year is to take between 4 and 6 new clients in the whole year that can deliver our income. So you can imagine it's not so much wide marketing. You might not have heard of us, but it's more kind of very specific. We want a client that can do us, say, cut size glass. So then we'll just then start, networking, grooming, trying to just get people around us so that they begin to start to trust us, because it's that kind of relationship. But it does bear dividends in the end, because you have a very solid recurring income model. Kind of
and is it always the same percentage of turnover, or is it based upon how much of your, have you built models around this type of business will take this many resources, and therefore
it changes tremendously. There's a big difference between a company that sells 500 quid tellies and makes 20 quid a sale from that, as there is between, say, bespoke companies that do bespoke projects at 80% margin. They sell 120 quid, they make £100 profit. There's a big difference between those two sorts of products in terms of the amount of marketing they put in to market those products. So you end up therefore getting a deal. We might not take the company on because they've only got 20 quid profit and the competition's massive, because we invest with them in stuff like advertising costs. So it's not going to be worth our time or our cost to advertise a company with such low margins. But if the turnover is massive, then it is. So every single client tends to have a different commission model based on what works for both of us. We have a target rate, if you know what I mean, but it's kind of that I'll go through all the contracts, and most of them are varied one way or the other. Sometimes it's a turnover variation, sometimes it's a product-based variation, sometimes it's another special variation, but yeah, you have to sort of make it work for them, and you have to make it work for us, and that's what we try and do. Thank you, very useful.
Right, thanks. So
how are things going, Robert? Anyway, are they going well?
Yeah, they're going all right. Yeah. As we say, like, you were working with a small number of clients, and it's just we're at that phase whereby we're trying to work out a pricing model which does not take constant readjustment and constant evaluation and repricing, if you like, because that then just frees us up to do what you do, which is, how can we gather the data to improve this situation for everyone.
So for those who are going to be watching this recorded, Rob, can you just tell us a bit, about the CRM?
So we're a CRM consultancy, so we help people to select, implement, develop, manage their CRM systems. So that is essentially their customer relationship management systems, customer interactions. And of course, you can be recording lots and lots and lots of data points about sales, social media, marketing, very similar to what Dave is doing. And yeah, just basically managing that within an off-the-shelf customized CRM systems is what we generally deal with. We don't deal with anything bespoke, although I've been involved in those type of projects before. And essentially we like to work with strong startups because obviously that we're there at the start, and we can help them to manage their data in what we feel is in an effective way from day one or day 100, rather than, you know, some of the organizations we work with that are 70 years plus of trading with data silos everywhere and just working practices that have meant that everything's been collected in lots of different ways over many years, and you know, a project which could take 3 weeks with a startup will take you 3 years.
But for me, as poacher turned gamekeeper, former tenant, now helping look after the pot, this kind of interaction is fantastic to see. You know, asking Dave a direct question and bouncing thoughts off each other. So I'm going to use chair's privilege here. You know, we've got Ben from Made with Maturity sat there, suffered Dave at least 3 times recently from the sounds of it. We've also got Alex. You know, Alex has been there with a high growth business and is now with Bamboo Growth. Don't know if your camera's working, Alex, so if you might want to just give us a wave, unless you snuck off for a cup of tea.
No, I'm still here. I'm listening. Very
yeah. You know, so you know, you've been through a lot of this journey of how do you get your pricing models right? How do you secure buy-in from your customer? How do you co-invest? And now you're there, having come out of that with an exit.
Yep.
You're now involved in a company helping to look after companies' growth. Do you want to give us a quick thumbnail on that?
Yeah, no, you've summed up very well. You know, obviously, I don't know if a lot of you know about Sponge that are on the Science Park, Sponge UK at the bottom. So Matt, who's my business partner at Bamboo Growth, and I started at the very beginning, 2004, I think it was, that I joined. And yeah, we sort of exited after many years of success, really. It's a massive success, Sponge was. And one of the things we both thought at the end of that experience was, God, we've got so much knowledge that we've sort of obtained from across the board, from sales, marketing, business strategy, recruitment, everything basically, that we thought, right, we've had so many pitfalls that we've been through and felt sort of, you know, and sort of experienced. It'd be great to pass that knowledge on to others, and especially the people at the Science Park. And one of the things that we're please watch out for is we're actually running some free workshops that are going to be coming up, that we're going to be sending out invites via Face. So yeah, more than, yeah, if you see them, please join in, especially the ones that, you know, that might be at that crunch point that you guys are at the moment for different things. Like I said, sometimes it might be, as was mentioned before, we can't get the right people to, you know, to continue the growth. It could be other things, we're not getting the right sales in. It could be absolutely anything. And yeah, that's the experience that Matt and I have got that we'd love to pass on to others.
So hopefully in another 20 years, Robert and Ben are going to be there telling us about their exit and, you know, bragging about which car park their Porsche's parked in. So it's great you've connected. From the chat, there's a couple of actions for me. I'm following up something for Vicky about access to some technology, and we need to try and, you know, work that. So this forum is helping connect. Keep in touch, sign up for more of these. Because it's great to get to know the neighbours, and you know, I can't take any credit for this. This is all down to Isabel and Faye. I'm just the stand-in, sadly. So you didn't get the Bonnie one. You got me today. So, you know, go away, have a great long weekend. But as you're all hard-working entrepreneurs, no doubt you'll still be working over a double bank holiday weekend. I can't for 1 minute imagine you're all putting your feet up. But if you do, and you've got family around, keep an eye on them. You know, as Vicky was saying, if we've got some aged aunties or grannies who seem to be losing the plot, that may
I wish it was just
the
aging grannies and aunties. It's, you know, people early 50s and beyond. So just keep an eye on your loved ones, and if you notice any change, please encourage them to come and speak to us.
Absolutely. And of course, you've got other initiatives as well, which I hadn't been aware of until today. Some of those that could probably being diagnosed at a younger age, you know, ADHD, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got lots of wonderful medics keen to speak to people and provide the advice and support that they need.
But thank you to the speakers, and thanks to the audience for getting stuck in. Robert, are you?
Yeah, just one more question to Alex. Is it the Bamboo Growth workshops? Is that what we're looking out for?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. I've had an email about that already.
Yeah, so what's already been sent out was basically what people would find relevant and interesting to make sure that we're tailoring obviously our services to the needs. So there's still time to, if you haven't already, just put your, I think you can sort of vote between 1 and 5, the 1 being the most irrelevant, the 5 being the most relevant for each of the sessions. And then there'll be then a separate stream going out, and that would be about signing up for the certain days for these workshops, basically. So
Okay, thank you.
Great. I'm always a big believer in it's the quality of the conversation that matters, not the quantity. So thank you all for participating. Thank you, Isabel, for helping run this so smoothly. And everybody go and enjoy the weekend of not working as hard as normal. Let's say.
Thank you.
All the best.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.